If I told you, you wouldn't believe me.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in Episode 3 of Skeleton Crew. And man, do we have a lot to talk about. Turns out that we did miss a few Easter eggs in Episodes 1 and 2, so we're going to bring those to you in this video. And we also deciphered all of the Arabesh scrolls, and they give us some answers about why the people of At-Attin are hidden, and we have some ideas about this great work that we're going to go over a little bit later. And I am so excited to show you guys Star Wars parody merch like the Grogu Boop and many more, but I'll tell you about those a little later in the video. First, let's go over the Easter eggs that we missed, that a lot of you shared with us on our free-to-join Discord server. So a lot of you pointed out that this winged creature is Fuzzball from Captain EO.
What's Captain EO?
Captain EO is a 20-minute, $23 million short 3D film that George Lucas produced and co-wrote, and that Francis Ford Coppola directed for Disney Parks back in the 80s. But some of us never saw it because not everybody was making Captain EO money in the mid-80s. Now, we also got a tip from a fan named Tyler that the school bell here is the same sound you hear in the cue for the Star Wars Tours ride. And remember, the RX droid that pilots the bus in this show is also the pilot for the Star Tours ride. Also, Jago from our Discord reminded us that the Ferryman puppet is a teak, like this character from the TV Ewok movies.
There were Ewok movies on TV?
Yeah, this family crashes on the forest moon of Endor, then like the whole family dies except for this little girl, and then she and the
whole
Ewok...
family dies? And this is a kid's movie?
You wouldn't last a day in the asylum where they raised me. Also, the guy who fern drag races is named Bonji Falfa, which is a reference to Harrison Ford's character Bob Falfa in George Lucas's American Graffiti. Remember, he's the guy who wanted to drag race the town hotshot, John Milner. And we also made a mistake. This tattoo is a Hutt symbol and not the Pikes. And also, I just want to shout out a great Twitter user named mtrack1000, who, by the way, is a great follow for you. He caught so many more species than we did, and I'm going to list all the ones we missed right now. Shydop, Keterian, Frog Dog, not a Loth Cat like I said, my bad, Hask, Ritaro, Thelin, Dibrinth, Fergosian, Ubdurian, and Onodone. So this episode opens on At-Attin, a planet that looks like Epcot Center was built next to the Hall of Justice. Now, last week we posted a video theorizing that At-Attin was somehow connected to the Sith Eternal cult from Rise of Skywalker, and that their great work was helping to clone Palpatine. So I still think this theory is partially true for a reason we're going to talk about in just a bit. But if this planet is there to somehow fund an evil organization and help the First Order to rise, then it makes these security droids so much more ominous. For instance, you know, they're white, but also so were the stormtroopers. It would not surprise me if at the end of the show, these robots turn on the people and enforce the law instead of keep the peace. And like I said, that scroll that we see later on has some huge clues about what this planet is really up to that we're going to talk about a little later in the video.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, hey man, why are you so down?
Well, I just found out that Santa Claus isn't going to come this year because...
Oh, is it because your hair is too long?
No,
Let me cut your hair for you. Yeah, there you go. Is that better? Yeah. There, is that better?
Wow, what was that?
Why, that was the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver by Manscaped. They're the sponsor of this video.
Manscaped? The global men's lifestyle brand that sets the bar higher in men's grooming standards?
That's right, Manscaped, the global men's lifestyle brand that sets the bar higher in men's grooming standards. You guys know we've all got someone in our lives who's a little scruffy and they're hard to shop for, but the Chairman Pro is a can't-miss gift for the holidays. It features a 360-degree contouring head and comes with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blades. You can also use the skin-safe stubble attachment, which comes with 2 separate combs depending on the length of stubble that you want, 1 to 2 days or 3 to 5. And guys, it is so easy to swap out to the 4-blade foil for a super close shave. Both blades are designed to help reduce razor burn and irritation so your skin feels smooth and comfortable after every shave. And with the Flex Adjust technology, the blades and head flex and adjust to the contours of your face and neck, giving you a more precise and comfortable shave. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower, making your grooming routine easier and cleaner. Guys, the Chairman Pro is powerful enough to tackle it up to 5 days of growth. Perfect if you're shaving every day or you're just tidying up a few key areas. It even has a travel lock, an LED spotlight, and the charge is good for up to 75 minutes in case you want to take a really long time to shave. So if you're looking to elevate your grooming routine, you gotta try the Chairman Pro by Manscaped. Use promo code ScreenCrush for 20% off your order plus free shipping. That is 20% off plus free international shipping with promo code ScreenCrush at manscaped.com. Now back to what I was saying. So the parents are worried sick about their youngsters, and we get a really good look at this mural that we saw in episode 1. So there is a reason why I think the show keeps showing us this. I think we're looking at the founders of At-Attin. We see humans, an Ithorian, and one who looks like the same species as Neil. And remember, we also saw an Ithorian in the classroom. So we're seeing these species still exist on this planet. The symbol above them also looks like one of the planetary symbols we see in the scrolls later in the episode. Also, Also, the art of the mural is just very similar to the art that we see on that scroll, which depicted several people who were probably the founders of the 9 planets that we'll talk about in just a bit. Now, we also find out important details about the planet, that they have been there for years. I mean, Kerry Condon grew up there. We also learned that KB has a life monitor and that the other kids don't. And we also know that the barrier has allowed them to carry on a secret mission that is separate from the rest of the Republic. And Wim's dad asks,
is the supervisor going to contact the Republic for help?
So the community is led by a mysterious figure named the Administrator, and this Administrator is the only person who communicates with the outside world, which makes me think this Administrator could be a person who knows that the Republic has actually fallen for 1,000 years, but they're keeping up a deception in order to have the people continue their great work. And like I said, this ties into a theory we're going to talk about later, but believe me, this planet is up to no damn good. And then we head off to the pirate base of Port Borgo, which is probably based off of Borgo Prime from Star Wars Legends. It's a planet that first appeared in 2018's A Smuggler's Guide. Now, it's near a major hyperspace route called the Hydian Way, which also runs near Mandalore. At the base, we see that force fields surround this base to protect it from outer space. But notice how the dungeon force fields are a different color. Now, they're probably like this because they would actually burn you if you touch them, but also I think this is so they're on a separate system and they could all be deactivated at once, letting all the prisoners die immediately. That's what I would do if I designed a prison.
Jeez, person, that's super dark.
I know. The prison guards are Cayuzos, and notice how Jar Jar the Wood uses the mind trick to help them escape. Or at least he appears to. We'll talk about that later. He hotwires the door, similar to what Han Solo did at the Battle of Endor.
I got it!
And the way he says,
now we know each other,
seemed very similar to this.
Well, now we ain't strangers anymore.
The probe droid here makes the same sound as the Imperial probe droid in The Empire Strikes Back. And KB was able to sense that droid coming because of the tech that she has embedded inside of her.
Wait, she's a cyborg?
Yes, like we just heard, she has a life monitor. So she's a lot like Lobot in The Empire Strikes Back. But Lobot couldn't really fully function as a human being, and he was more of a living computer. KB is still more human than machine, but apparently she can also talk to machines. Out on the base, we see several species, like these Jawas having a drink. Now, the hookah bars here, I think, are a PG stand-in for opium dens. And here, this Aqualishita bar speaks Huttese, and then a fight starts. So again, this could have been Jod using the Jedi mind trick to get them to throw a punch. Here on the right, we see a Quarren, and here a Nikto coming up to watch the fight. Now notice, as they walk through this scene, the camera mostly stays at the eye level of a child, right behind Neil. So that means that we're seeing everything from a child's point of view. Steven Spielberg used this same trick in E.T., where he rarely elevated the camera above a child's eye level, until here, the camera suddenly cranes upward to show us the scale of this place and just how far they have to go in order to escape. Now right here, we see several ships, including the Crimson Jack pirate ship that we saw in episode 1, and we didn't mention it last week, but the kids' hijack ship is called the Onyx Cinder. Onyx is also a color that's very close to black, so you could say that this is a sideways reference to the Black Pearl from Pirates of the Caribbean. Also, big shout out to Screen Rant for catching this Lethalian corvette, a ship built on planet Lethal. That was the primary setting for the show Star Wars Rebels. And in the first episode, the cook says,
"What do you think this is, a Griffin charity?"
And Criff is a well-known Star Wars curse word, usually appearing in the comics and in print, but its first appearance, appropriately, was in the junior novel Servants of the Empire, Edge of the Galaxy. So when they escape, Fern says,
That was too easy.
which has to be a nod to Leia's line in A New Hope.
They let us go. It's the only explanation for the ease of our escape.
And then they guilt-trip Nod into going back for the droid, and he really doesn't want to. Now, if he does have some kind of connection to the Jedi Order, then, well, he could have been as old as his early 20s when the Clone Wars broke out. So he would have fought against the droid army, which explains his disdain for droids.
you might want to clean up around here.
Here we see a warthog, and you'll remember we saw one of these guys serving the dread pirate Gorian Shard in the Mandalorian episode, The Pirate. And because Crimson Jack was once a pirate, he knows exactly where they would have taken the droids, which is how he's able to find 33 so easily. The first droid here is a CZ communication droid, like we saw hanging out outside the cantina in A New Hope. And fun fact for you, his chest plate is based off an early design for Darth Vader's. The next droid says,
"The prince is in danger. Quickly, I must save the prince."
Because the pirates obviously stole him while they were attacking some prince on a ship. And of course, the funnest Easter egg in this scene is the B-1 battle droid from the Clone Wars, with the original voice. But this thing falls apart straight away because it's over 30 years old and they never made them that well to begin with. Then he's interrupted by an Ishi Tip, who is voiced by none other than
Captain Silver, is that you?
Alfred Molina, aka
No time to argue.
aka Dr. Octopus.
Hello, Peter.
He says,
well, that's the real trick then, isn't it?
which is another callback to a line of dialogue from A New Hope.
We'd like to avoid any Imperial entanglements.
Well, that's the real trick, isn't it?
And I also want to shout out the design of this shipyard, how the refueling cables and the fueling station give it the appearance of like masts and ropes, like we're looking at sail rigging on old pirate ships. It's a very cool production design choice. And then they make their escape. Now, I pointed this out last week, but the 3 readout panels here on the cockpit are circles, just like in the cockpit of the Naboo ships we see in the Phantom Menace, which makes sense because this is a very, very, very old ship dating back to the Antebellum Republic.
What's antebellum mean?
Well, ante means before and bellum means war, so before the war. Like it comes from the Roman goddess of Bella, who is also where we get words like rebellion, rebel, and bellicose.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
That's okay. So now I want to tell you guys about some new merch that we have at our merch store that we're dropping just in time for the gifting season. We have this super fun Darth Vulcan shirt, Tony giving life to Ultron, a parody of the creation of Adam, the Loki Gator, Evil will always triumph because good is dumb, and of course lots of other fun ScreenCrush merch that we have in gift bundles that you can check out at our website or by subscribing to our newsletter below. Also guys, we are now selling tickets to our live show tour next year. We have had so much fun visiting with you guys, showing you presentations, inventing new video essays with you, and just getting to meet you face to face. So you can also buy tickets to our live show by clicking our links below. So then we go back to the escape in the galaxy's most stubborn fuel line. Now I should point out that Jod takes them into hyperspace while he's still very close to this base. But in Star Wars, you can't go into hyperspace while you're near a body with large gravity. But because this base is so small, it likely has artificial gravity, so the rule doesn't apply.
Then how did Han come in out of hyperspace into the atmosphere of Starkiller Base?
Simple explanation, that's your mom. So when they finally go to hyperspace, the recoil of the fuel line hits this Nikto hard, leaving Captain Brutus on the dock vowing revenge. Now, in case it wasn't clear, Jod, aka Crimson Jack, was also the pirate captain that Brutus overthrew in the first episode.
Oh.
Right? So then Jack makes some food.
Wait, where did he get the food?
What do you mean?
Well, like, hasn't the ship been there for like 1,000 years or something? Wouldn't all the food go bad, or did he like grab food when he was escaping?
He got the food in Detroit.
I knew it.
So the other big mystery of this show is, who is Jod Nana Wood? Is he really a Jedi? Or is he a huckster like Kumail Nanjiani's character in Obi-Wan Kenobi? Like, he's definitely scrupulous, examining corpses for their boot size, which, you know, puts him at odds with 33. And by the way, I love the design of 33, how ordinarily he slouches and he seems to walk like he has a wooden leg. But then when he stands up to his full height, he is truly menacing. And I also like all the little touches on this ship, like how the beds on the ships are hammocks, like they would have been in the holds of old pirate ships. I always say that Star Wars, you know, may be in space, but it always has to feel ancient, and the production design team really pulled that off in this show. Meanwhile, the kids are also trying to work out the mystery of their planet, and they guess that it has something to do with finances. And this is my guess too. In the book Bloodline, Leia uncovers a secret criminal network that is funding the rise of the First Order. After all, war is expensive.
There's only one business in the galaxy that'll get you this rich.
War.
So my theory is that At-Attin is working with the Sith Eternal, the group that built Palpatine's fleet of Zyston-class Star Destroyers in The Rise of Skywalker. But funding those ships and managing the logistical nightmare of building hundreds of cannons with the power of a Death Star, like all of that would take a lot of secret financing that needs to be hidden. And there's also clues in the scrolls, and I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So when they land on the planet of the Space Out, listen to this soundtrack. I love this. That is the sound of a theremin, a radio antenna used to make creepy sounds in old 50s horror movies.
And Brian Wilson also used it in Good Vibrations.
That's right, and the shot of the crew walking across this silhouette of the planet or moon could be inspired by E.T. and Elliot flying across the moon, since you know this show owes its entire feel to classic 80s Spielberg films. But I think it's actually more likely an homage to the cover art of Stand By Me. Stand By Me was another classic 80s coming-of-age film about kids venturing off into the woods without adults. So this theme of kids wandering off into danger is a recurring theme for Skeleton Crew co-creator John Watts, who made his mark with his indie film Cop Car, about kids stealing a cop car while they're alone in the woods. Now the base itself is an observatory that frankly looks like the top of a Dalek from Doctor Who. So when they arrive at the base, it is guarded by several security droids, like the one outside of Jabba's palace and outside the Imperial base in The Mandalorian Episode 1. Jod is identified as Crimson Jack, and that name has a lot of history. In the original Star Wars comics, Crimson Jack debuted in 1977. He was created by Roy Thomas and the character was a pirate. But then, in the recent comic book Halcyon Legacy, he was reintroduced as a character set during the sequel trilogy. Now he doesn't look a thing like Jude Law, though. And actually, that comic was made to tie into the story of the Halcyon Star Cruiser, aka the Star Wars Hotel, so I never actually read it, but I seriously doubt if they're the same character.
Maybe Crimson Jack is a title, like the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Could be. Now, all around Kim's place, we see data pads stacked everywhere, like the asymmetrical book stacking in Ghostbusters.
You're right, no human being would stack books like this.
And Kim is an all-around great addition to the Star Wars galaxy. I love a talking space owl crossed with a cat. And when she says,
At-Attin is very interesting. As an astrogation problem.
I think this had to have been homage to my favorite scene in Joe versus the Volcano.
Very exciting. As a luggage problem.
She is also voiced by Elias Shawkat, who plays Maybe in Arrested Development.
Hey, what is she talking about, like hyperspace routes? What's that?
Great question. So, to travel around in the Star Wars galaxy, you have to pass into something called hyperspace. But you can't just do it anywhere. There are specific hyperspace routes all throughout the galaxy. So basically, think of them as space highways. But it's also significant that she still has actual paper maps. Paper is very rare in the Star Wars galaxy, because almost everybody uses data pads. So this tells you that these scrolls she brings out are very, very, very old. So let me explain the difference here between the Old Republic, the Republic, and the New Republic. So the whole confusion started when Obi-Wan said this.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic.
So that line implied that the Jedi protected the Republic for, 20,000 years. 1,000 generations, 20 years each. But then, in Attack of the Clones, Palpatine said,
I will not let this Republic that has stood for 1,000 years be split in two.
So to reconcile this difference, George Lucas came up with the idea that the Republic of the Clone Wars era was only 1,000 years old. But the Old Republic, or the First Republic, was around for far longer, for 20,000 years. It fell during the war between the Jedi and the Sith, which also coincided with the Mandalorians sacking the Jedi Temple and stealing the Darksaber.
Man, they really should make that movie and make that Mandalorian Tar Vizsla the protagonist.
Oh my god, yes, that would be awesome. So let's break down this scroll and our theory for the mystery of At-Attin. She says,
This scroll depicts the jewels of the Old Republic. Planets of wonders kept hidden for their protection.
Now, when she says jewels, she doesn't mean the Republic literally held jewels there. I guess they could have, but what she's actually saying that these planets were precious to the Old Republic. And in her chart, we see there were 9 of them. And notice how the center design looks similar to that circular emblem that's on the mural that we saw earlier. Also, the wider circle is a star chart, very similar to the map to Luke Skywalker that we saw in The Force Awakens. Now, the Arabesh here was very tricky to translate because the scroll is incomplete. Parts of the sentences run off the edge, part of it was upside down and backwards, plus all the lines they connect in a circle. So I had to do some guesswork about where the lines fit into where. And the Senate deemed it good and necessary, their republic, and so founded the Wither, and the families were nourished. And upon them settled various blank, hard to make this out, Republic financial blank, but as the jewel, so the great work, and at great work, the Republic with tranquility and kinship, peoples of many republic blank. And there is also a portion of this that is upside down and backwards that reads, the ones other worlds which were open, Republic and the Republic closer and hidden EVE, 9th At-Attin founder, and thus it, this day where the great work was, and finally this line is kind of broken and hard to read, but it does say in there great worth. Now, like I said, this is incomplete, but we can use this to piece together the origin of At-Attin. We hear that the Senate created this hidden planet. They sent colonists or families to settle this world. And we know that the planet was primarily a kind of hidden financial center, like a Fort Knox for the Old Republic. And the line, but as the jewel, so the great work, and great at work, is also important. In episode 1, we heard the administrator refer to this great work.
You'll become part of our planet At-Attin's contribution to the great work.
The teacher in episode 1 also talked about liquidity and the fungibility of currency.
What's fungibility mean?
Well, fungibility means when an item, asset, or commodity can be replaced with something of like kind when fulfilling a contract or paying a debt. So in other words, the United States dollar used to be backed by the gold standard. Because we have a bunch of gold in Fort Knox, our money was representing the value of that gold. In the same way, the wealth of At-Attin is actually backing up the value of the Old Republic currency. So without that wealth, the Old Republic currency wouldn't be worth anything. So this planet existed during the time when the Sith numbered in the thousands and they were fighting Jedi Knights. So I think the Sith in their war with the Jedi were the ones who destroyed these other 8 planets, the other 8 jewels of the Republic. And they did this to undermine the wealth of the Republic. But I think that then they discovered At-Attin, but they decided to leave it alone.
I kind of like this one, Bob.
The Sith realized that they could control At-Attin by telling its people that they were still serving the Republic when they were actually now serving the Sith. So this secret administrator could be a member of the Sith Eternal Cult. So then, after the Sith went into hiding, this story of the Planet of Wealth was passed down from master to apprentice for 1,000 years. So then, when the time came for Palpatine to execute his final order in Rise of Skywalker, he had unlimited finances at his disposal because he was using the wealth of At-Attin. So I think all of this would be pretty great because it would help explain where the hell all those Sith ships came from in Rise of Skywalker and, you know, how so many Sith were in hiding for so long. I mean, last week we even posted a video where we theorized that At-Attin could be Exegol, so it all fits. The Arbesh here reads Navbank as she searches for the planets. And then the kids name drop Coruscant and Alderaan, and Kim replies,
Missed the war, did you?
because of course Alderaan was destroyed in A New Hope.
What?
Ooh, sorry to break it to you. The nav bank here reads eliminating at the bottom, and the planet names were just too blurry for me to read. But eventually the screen does clear up and I was able to make out several famous Star Wars planets. These read Mustafar, the planet where Darth Vader fought Obi-Wan and later built his palace, Mandalore, Tatooine, Hoth, Kamino, Bespin, Coruscant, and Corellia, Han Solo's home planet. Now I don't think that any of these are candidates to be At-Attin, but they are some neat throwaway Easter eggs. Fern's school badge reads Prefect, and when Kim is analyzing it, the computer says Palmerish symbol, unknown Old Republic emblem.
Kind of looks like an Atari symbol to me.
Yeah, me too. And then Kim, who by the way is also wearing a Lobot-like cyborg implant, calls in the X-Wings to help the kids. The X-Wings have blue markings, probably marking them as Blue Squadron, who were the heroes of Scarif in Rogue One, and we also of course saw them fighting in the sequel trilogy at Starkiller Base. Jod comes clean.
But you are a Jedi, right?
I never actually said that.
What?
But I do think that he was a former Padawan, someone who was never given the rank of Jedi Knight, and then who left the Order and went into hiding after the Purge. Now, if he was a child soldier, this would also explain why he's so comfortable sending these kids into combat. He sends them into the ship's turrets, just like Han and Luke did in A New Hope, and we also get to see how much of this ship is practical and not filmed into volume, as the camera is able to move through this space to give us a sense of dynamic action. So now we're going to have the New Republic, the Space Pirates, and the mysterious administrator of At-Attin all trying to hunt down these kids. So guys, I'm loving this story so far. It's a new take on the Star Wars galaxy, but it fits within this world. We have lots more to say about this, but I want to know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments, or you can at me on Twitter, Threads, or Blue Sky. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.